We want to take you now live to Oslo in Norway, where a Palestinian activist who was warned by the Norwegian government of a possible threat against him from Saudi Arabia is holding a press conference for the very first time. This is Iyad el-Baghdadi, who was told the threat had been passed on to Norwegian authorities by the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency. He was informed there could be several reasons why Saudi Arabia would target him. Iyad el-Baghdadi was granted asylum in Norway 4 years ago and is a critic of Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Let's listen in to what he has to say.
That I felt that I had crosshairs on my back. In February, I expressed my concern to a number of friends, Norwegian friends, who asked, and I asked for their advice. In March, after receiving more indications that I'm a target, I filed a police report with Oslo Police. In fact, when the PST showed up at my doorstep on April 25th, I wasn't the least surprised. In fact, I think the first thing I said was something like, "What took you so long?" At the time, I did not know that they received a tip from the CIA. They only told me later. Now, I'd like to address the subject of what this incident means in the broader context of MBS's rise. It seems to me that MBS is shedding his reformist image and entering a new phase. The image of the enlightened reformer, that image has served him well, and I think it's gone. It's over and done with. It's not coming back. The new phase seems to be one of naked repression. MBS is not done killing. This is not a one-off incident. It's part of a new wave of repression. The threats against me and my colleagues are not a new escalation. It is not surprising in the least that MBS would be going after dissidents. Now, some may be wondering why MBS would still be out to target dissidents after the backlash after Jamal's murder. Some would point to the shameful lack of accountability, and of course they'd be right. In recent reporting, I've seen that MBS is being presented almost as a Putin figure, as someone who's unaccountable, and there's nothing that anybody can do about it. I actually think, even some reports show they lead with pictures of MBS with Putin. I actually think that you should show pictures of MBS with Jared Kushner. MBS is only unaccountable and unhinged because the administration, which is most capable of holding him to account, is currently his biggest enabler. Now, there's another factor which is important to consider. One of the most poignant messages that I have received in the past week came from a human rights activist working somewhere in the Arab world. And this was the message. The message was something like, if you are threatened and you're in Norway, what chance do I have? MBS has already benefited. He's already sent ripples of fear among dissident communities. He sent a message that if you oppose him, you're not safe regardless where you are, even if you're here in Norway. In a dark way that actually mirrors the logic of targeting Jeff Bezos. Because if Jeff Bezos can be blackmailed, who's safe? There's a second way in which MBS has benefited. Those who can check my Twitter mentions can see that I've received a tremendous amount of abuse from Saudi-controlled Twitter accounts. The majority of the abuse focuses on the fact that I'm Palestinian. Ahead of the so-called deal of the century, which is expected to be declared next month, MBS's propaganda engine is doubling down on its effort to insult and dehumanize Palestinians. They describe us as being treasonous, money-grabbing, untrustworthy, hypocritical, disloyal, and ungrateful. All of this is in order to make the case domestically that Palestinians are not worth supporting, and that the terrible deal that's going to be declared is the best that we deserve. The fact that I'm Palestinian actually happens to serve their narrative. In closing, I'd like to express my gratitude to Norwegian security services for the care and protection that they have provided. The threats against me seem to be a long-term problem. And for me, this is like settling into a new lifestyle. I'm not in a position to make any comments about security arrangements, but I can confirm that 2 different Norwegian institutions are involved. I think that as Norwegians and as residents of Norway, we have every right to be proud of the professionalism and competence of Norwegian security services. Having seen the work of these agencies from the inside, I can guarantee you and I can confirm that there are serious professionals whose work is impressive and comprehensive. I'm not a Norwegian citizen yet, but as a prospective Norwegian, I must say that I'm proud of this country and of the light that it is in the world today. I also wish to express my gratitude to Norway's Ministry of Justice. Norway's Ministry of Justice has immediately taken into consideration my concerns about my family members who remain vulnerable outside of Norway after these threats. My family lived in the United Arab Emirates until 2014, when I was arrested and expelled from the country. My parents and my sister were later made to leave in 2015. They now live as refugees in another country, and my father's mental health has deteriorated sharply after these events. I've been advised by security experts that my family is a soft target and that securing their safety is of utmost priority. I can no longer travel to see them. I need to bring them here for them to be safe. Last week, the Norwegian Ministry of Justice was informed, and I'm told that the deputy minister said that their case is being examined immediately. I'm grateful for any and all efforts to secure my family's safety. Norway, please bring my family to safety, please. A final message to Norway would be about the Norwegian Oil Fund, which is the world's richest and most successful sovereign wealth fund. Let it be known that Norway's money continues to be invested in Saudi Arabia. I will not comment. I'm going to leave this point to the conscience of the Norwegian people. I would like to thank the Fritt Ord Foundation in Norway for funding some of my work. I'm honored and humbled by their support. And of course, I would very much like to thank my family here at Civita. I don't know what I would have done without you guys. MBS is a perfect embodiment of Arab tyranny in its most hysterical, most paranoid, and hopefully its final stage. It is their fear which is driving their paranoia. If you look at the Arab region today, you're going to see authoritarian hysteria, failed states, terror organizations, civil wars, proxy wars, economic crisis, but you're also going to see popular uprisings and stiff popular resistance. This may look like absolute chaos, but I submit to you that this is exactly what a democratic transition looks like. This is not a battle of a few years, this is a battle of a generation. History is in good hands. The nations of the so-called free world need to choose which side of history they stand on. We're not free until we're all free. We're not safe until we're all safe. Thank you. I'll take your questions.
Thank you, Iyad.
We've been listening there to Palestinian activist Iyad el-Baghdadi, who's holding a news conference in Oslo, Norway. This coming just a few days after the Norwegian authorities warned him of a possible threat against him from Saudi Arabia. And Iyad el-Baghdadi talking extensively during this news conference about the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman. He is a dissident, Iyad el-Baghdadi, popular blogger who gained prominence during the Arab Spring in 2011. And this news conference and the reported threats that he's facing from the Saudi government coming just 7 months after the killing of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. And in the immediate aftermath of Jamal Khashoggi's killing, al-Baghdadi was among a number of activists who worked around the clock to try to figure out what happened to Jamal Khashoggi. And we will continue to monitor this news conference in Oslo and bringing all the latest lines there.